even if you're 100% right in defending yourself, defending your family, you're still going to go through due process. You're still going to probably get arrested, and you're still going to have to pay an attorney to go through that.
There's 3 fights in self-defense. There's the physical fight, which is the most important one. You obviously need to survive that one. Then there's the legal and financial fight. And then there's the emotional fight that usually comes after. Well, we step up and we take care of the second and the third fight.
Every citizen armed ensures that every American patriot is prepped with knowledge, perspective, and firepower.
He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on the next episode of Every Citizen Armed. And today we actually have a couple really cool guests. I'm going to let them describe themselves, but they're with Firearms Legal Protection. But why don't you guys go ahead and introduce what you do?
Okay, I'm Jeff Rogers. I'm Vice President with Firearms Legal Protection out of our corporate offices in Addison, Texas, which is just a north suburb of Dallas. And Firearms Legal Protection is a company that provides legal protection for self-defense incidents for individuals. The name is a little misleading because it lends yourself to believe it's only self-defense if you use a gun. But actually it's self-defense if you use any legal, lethal or non-lethal weapon. So obviously a gun, but hands and feet, golf club, your dog, your car, belt buckle, any weapon of opportunity that's a legal, lethal or non-lethal weapon, we cover you if you're involved in a situation where you got to defend yourself. And we provide uncapped protection for your legal fees, both in criminal and civil litigation, no matter how many times you go to trial or how many times you might get sued. And then there's a whole list of other benefits that go along with it.
Yeah, I'm Nick Buell. I'm the area manager for the western northwest states. I'm in Pocatello, Idaho. So I've been in the legal protection industry for the last 4 years. Multiple different kind of companies, but I've kind of landed on FLP. I figure they got one of the best packages and best pricing that's available. So
It's pretty. You guys both came from out of state, which you're in the states that a lot of us want to go to. Actually, it's you've kind of came the wrong direction in our minds. But we really appreciate you flying all the way out here for this. I think it's one of our biggest pushes is legal, being responsible gun owners. That's always what we talk about in here. But at the same time, I like how this expands out past that. But that is a big part of it, is having your insurance, having your coverage if you're going to carry a firearm. So when you got into this, how did this kind of come about? How did you get started with this?
Well, for me personally, I've been a concealed carry holder for probably 10 years. And like a lot of people, probably most people in the country, I never even knew this kind of protection even existed until someone mentioned to me about, hey, do you ever carry your gun? And I said, well, from time to time. And we kind of talked about some things. I said, what do you have for legal protection? And I said, well, I'm assuming my homeowners. He goes, no, that's an inaccurate assumption. And so I just started doing some research and looked at a few companies out there, FLP. We call it FLP to save from saying the long name. And so for me, I said, wow, this seems like the best type of protection out there. So I became a member of them. And then, I sold an education business and tried retirement and got bored. And then it's a stroke of luck or the good Lord's grace where opportunity came up with Firearms Legal Protection. And so I came on board with them because I believe in their product. They're a great company, got a lot of energy and passion, and, their focus is their memberships and making sure that they're taken care of. So that's how I got involved with FLP.
Now, Nick, you actually in the past, you were Lake County deputy. Is that correct?
yes.
So that's quite the little step over in a way, and you got out of the state, which we're all a little jealous of.
I did, yeah. I couldn't take the state of California anymore, but yeah, I was a deputy sheriff in Lake County for 2 years. Moved out of the state, went to Oregon, and got into insurance, and got into firearms instructing, and that just kind of led into the firearms legal protection side. Like I said, I worked for a couple of different companies, but I'm very glad that I've landed at FLP because I think that's one of the best products that's out there, the best price, and yeah.
You made a comment there. I didn't realize this. You said you did some training also? You did firearms training?
Yeah.
Now, were you doing you were an instructor?
Yes.
Now, with that, were you teaching for the CCW classes?
More just like basic safety classes. I can't teach the legal portion of the concealed carry aspect of it. I can't.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
No. Yeah, you have to be an attorney or an active police officer with a post-advanced certificate to be able to do the legal portion.
All right. But I would imagine when you were doing some of these trainings, you really didn't think a lot about the insurance back then, but now looking at it.
Yeah, I really didn't. It was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. It just wasn't a part of what we were instructing and what we were knowledge about at the time. So the last 5 years, getting more into that legal protection side, it became so much more clear of the necessity of why it's so important to be protected, especially if you carry a gun or even if you just believe in self-defense. It's just such a key part of being able to defend yourself.
I think that leads into one of the bigger parts of what you guys do of working with instructors, because that's, I think, part of any training you're going to have with a firearm. If they're going to go out and do CCWs or self-defense training, whether it be like we were talking earlier about somebody teaching jujitsu. I think it's as part of that instruction, I think it's a great time to talk a little bit about having these insurances and what type of insurances are out there.
Right.
So you work with instructors a lot.
Oh, absolutely. They're one of our key demographics when it comes to promoting and educating the public on what this type of product is. And I don't mean to correct you, but here in California, our product is actually prepaid legal. It's not insurance.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to hang on the difference in words, but there is a difference between insurance and prepaid legal. Our product is you're paying a X amount for a certain amount of benefits, and that's what you get. We don't fall under the control of the Department of Insurance in the state of California. So there's never going to be an instance where we say, I think I gave you the example of being in Texas. I always deal with hailstorms and calling out my insurance agent, and I got a bid for $25,000 to replace my roof. And it's like, yeah, that's old damage over there. Well, it looks like there was a patching done over here. So yeah, we'll give you $15,000. That's not the way our product works. And it definitely doesn't work like that in California. But for instructors, yeah, I mean, people are going to instructors because they're the experts, right? They're the subject matter experts on the gun laws and safety training and the proper way to use a weapon. So what more natural person to sit there and say, hey, let me educate you on something else. If, God forbid, you've got to use your gun or some other means of self-defense, there's probably going, especially if you use your gun, there's going to be legal ramifications. It could include being arrested and charged in criminal court, could very easily end up being sued in a civil court. So let me educate you. How do you protect yourself that way? And what we typically say to people, there's 3 fights in self-defense. There's the physical fight, which is the most important one. You obviously need to survive that one. Then there's the legal and financial fight. And then there's the emotional fight that usually comes after. Well, we step up and we take care of the second and the third fight because we're going to protect you as far from having to cover you on the legal side, both criminal and civil with attorneys, an assortment of other benefits. And then on the emotional side, we provide counseling support for anybody that needs it with professionals. So that's so obviously instructors are a natural piece of that because I'm in a class, I'm hanging on every word that you're saying because you're the expert. So I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
So, and if instructors want to be involved in this, you have a program for them.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very beneficial to them. It's going to make them more important to their customers. So how does that work for an instructor to come in and get involved with you?
Very easy, actually. Our program is when we partner with an instructor, then we kind of can train them or we can send a professional to their class, whichever works best for them, to do a presentation with their students on the benefits of FLP and what we offer. And we sign up everyone who wants to join that program and get protected. And when we do that, then we give a payment to the instructor for every person that joins, so they get additional revenue for that. But then also, they look like they're the carrying instructor offering that protection to their students too. So the students get protected, the instructor makes some money, and then we get a member. So it's definitely a win-win-win situation.
And one of the things that instructors like about us is our approach is a little unique with instructors. The vast majority of the folks in our industry, and certainly the bigger players that we go up against, they require and request that they come into your classroom. And when it's time to talk about legal protection, they want to have the audience to your class. So they step in. And a lot of instructors don't like that. I wouldn't like it if I was an instructor because people are paying good money to listen to me. I don't want to give my class up to somebody else. It sometimes has almost a timeshare feel to it when all of a sudden they introduce me. Well, who's this guy? And I'm telling you about legal protection. So we don't demand that. Now, if they want us to participate, help them in their class, absolutely. But the vast majority of instructors like the idea that they're not giving up their class to anybody. And then they're not sitting there saying, well, he said he was going to take 15 minutes. Now we're into 30 minutes. And then it eliminates any, we're not a hard sell type of company, or I'm not a hard sell type of person, but it even eliminates that, because now it's just you and the instructor, and you're educating your students and you're telling them why this is important. And so that's a unique that a lot of the instructors really kind of take to when we tell them how we do our program.
Well, and when I was looking at it, and we were talking earlier about how this isn't just all about firearms. You were telling me a story about a grandma down in Palm Springs, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a great scenario of what could happen and why you have to have some type of insurance.
Yeah.
Or not insurance, some type of
That's okay. I sometimes say it too.
Some type of coverage.
Yeah.
Help with protection.
Yeah.
Could you describe that a little bit? I think that's an important.
Yeah. Again, and I say to some folks when they'll say, especially if I'm in a class and there's someone there and they're getting their concealed carry class, and someone will say, well, what are the odds that I'm going to need this coverage? And I said, okay, well, let me ask you, you're getting a concealed carry class? Yes. Do you own a gun now? Yeah. Why? Well, for self-protection. What if I showed you statistics that you and I are both going to go to our graves and we're never going to pull out a gun to defend ourselves? Would you ask for your money back and go take your gun back and ask for your money back? Well, no. Well, why? Because if in case that moment happens, I want to be prepared and protected. Absolutely. Well, if that moment happens, you're going to need this protection too. And the fact is, we all have that type of protection in our lives. I know I mentioned to you earlier, just take car insurance. The law requires a minimum amount of car insurance, but I'd be willing to bet every one of us goes beyond that. And I used the example with you. I'm 67 years old. I've been in one car accident when I was 16. But I pay every month to get uninsured motorists and underinsured and non-insured motorist coverage. And I've never been in a car accident with somebody who doesn't have car insurance. But I pay that extra every month because I don't want to have to write that $5,000 or more check to repair my car. Kind of the same logic. We all have that. I hope I never have to use it. I don't want to use it, but I know what the consequences are. So with the grandmother down in Palm Springs, and this was my sister, and I won't say her name because she'll be mad at me, but I always pick at her. She was telling me a story about a grandma coming out of a Target parking lot, and she was with her grandbaby, putting her grandbaby back in the car seat, and a homeless individual came up to her and tried to grab her purse, and she quickly jerked away and pulled away. And when she did, he reached in to try to grab at the granddaughter. Grandma, credit to her, thought fast. She certainly didn't have a weapon, but she had her car keys. And so she popped him in his ear, hit him in the ear. Of course, natural reaction for anybody is he pulled away real quick. And when he did that, she hit him again right in his eye and blinded him. Now, police comes, big rigmarole. Police do not arrest her. She doesn't get cited or anything. But lo and behold, a few weeks later, she gets a welcome mail in the mail where she's being sued in civil court by this individual. And she ended up spending $32,000 to defend herself, that what she did was right. She had every right to defend herself and her granddaughter. If she's a member of our program, she never spends a dime for that. And that's the reality, unfortunately, of what happens. And we all hear the big cases, that are out there. The Marine just recently in New York, that would be a perfect example of somebody, if he was a member of ours, that he would be covered on something like that. I mentioned to you about Jack Wilson in Fort Worth. Some people probably remember that. It was about 3-4 years ago in Fort Worth, Texas. He was in the church on a Sunday service. Gentleman comes in with a trench coat, opens fire. Jack's got his gun with him and shoots him and kills him. And he spent the next 10 months fighting the criminal court system in Texas. And I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars he ended up spending. They did a GoFundMe page for him. GoFundMe shut it down because they don't support, gun violence. And he ended up getting the charges dropped, 10 months of his life and the stress that went with it. But his plight wasn't over with, because about 3 weeks later, he got sued in civil court by 2 people that were in the church that day whose life probably saved.
And that was in Texas.
Yep.
We all think, we live in California. And if that fella had to fight that for 10 months in Texas, could you imagine what that's going to be like out here? California definitely is very, like we've said, very litigious. And I've been sued more times than I can count. So it definitely got to have this type of coverage. So when you look at that, there's obviously different levels of what people could get in type of different types of coverage. How does that work for them? What is the best processes? Are they better to go through an instructor? Can they go through your website? Yeah,
they can certainly go to our website and right there online and sign up we have 3 plans. That's another thing I like about our program. A lot of our competitors, it's confusing for me to figure out what am I getting covered just on the base rate. And what do I have to add to get the additional stuff I want? Our plans are 3 plans, and it lists everything you're getting for what you're paying. There's no, oh, you want to cover this, add another $1.57 kind of deal. No, that's right there. So it's 3 plans. Basic plan covers you, the individual, and your state of residence. And it comes with, and all our plans come with uncapped, no limit, legal protection, both criminal and civil litigation. At no time will you ever pay a penny for your defense. So if you go to trial and lose, which fortunately I'll knock lightly on wood, we've never had a member go to trial and lose a trial. But if you do go to trial and lose, we're not going to bill you back your attorney fees. If you plea a deal, which 90% of all criminal charges end up in some type of plea deal, we don't bill that back either. You'll never pay another penny more other than your monthly fee, or if you choose to pay for it upfront annually. But again, all of them come with uncapped. Basic plan also comes with record expungement. And here in California, this is not a thing in Texas, but it is in California and about 14 other states. It's called extreme risk order, or red flag, which is basically a layman's version of a search warrant. Someone can make an anonymous complaint against you. You made some threatening comments. You're a gun owner. I don't feel safe. You get a knock at the door, and law enforcement are there to say, we're taking all your guns. And we provide an attorney that will advocate and fight on your behalf to get that reversed. Then we have our individual premium plan that's going to cover you, the individual, in all 50 states. And it comes with our long list of benefits, what I just said, as well as expert witness, private eye, crime scene cleanup, gun confiscation reimbursement, and a whole assortment of it. And I mentioned counseling support earlier. Then we have our premium family plan, just as it suggests. It's going to cover you, your significant other, whoever you determine is your significant other, and any underage kids that live with you in home. It's going to cover them just like you in all 50 states. Those are our 3 plans.
And I think that's something that folks need to think about too, is like we talked about in Texas, in our mindset, we think that guy, he was in the shooting out there, he's going to be fine. It's Texas. We're here in Kern County. We're going to be a little more, they're not lenient, they're a little more constitutionally minded here. But how often do we just stay in Kern County?
Right.
You know, if I'm carrying, I'm going to be up Northern California. I'll be in Southern California. And this is going to help cover me in all the different areas of this state where they may not have the same feelings that I have or our county has. So I think that part is actually a very big factor. Or if I do go to Arizona or Oregon or Washington, as long as you're legally carrying. Right. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm probably hard to see, and I won't try to do it, but we have another thing that it's called a MyFLP app. You download it, and it's updated twice a month for every gun law in all 50 states. It shows you the reciprocity map, who's going to honor your concealed carry license. It tells you what the do's and don'ts are. In Texas, we have things that are called 30.5, 30.6, 30.7 signs and laws that mean certain things for gun owners or concealed carry holders. It tells you all that. And if you say, hey, I'm going to travel from California to Texas, so I'm going to cross through Arizona, maybe go down through New Mexico. What do I need to do if I'm taking my gun with me? Do I have to have it in a lockbox in my trunk? Ammunition's got to be separate. It gives you all those up-to-dates, and you can instantly chat with an attorney on that app. So that's something that we provide. One other thing I was going to mention is our 3 plans. If you go to our site, there's a fee of what those plans are. But when it comes to an instructor, a benefit that we give to instructors and people that take that extra step to learn how to be a safe and responsible gun owner is our prices are discounted. So our basic plan is $9.95 a month is all it costs. Our premium individual is $21.95 and our family is $38.95. When you sign up for our plan in classroom instruction, you are price locked for life. That cost of that plan will never rise another penny. And we have had price increases since we started in 2014, but you will not pay a dime more. And any new benefits we come out with, you're going to get those benefits as well.
We're definitely very understanding of price increases lately out here. So I think that's been a big part of our lives. So, unfortunately. Okay, so somebody's carrying the insurance, or I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Somebody's carrying the protection that is needed. Now, Saturday night, 10 o'clock, something's happened. Whether it be they've had to use the firearm, whether they've had to, defend themselves just physically. What do they do? What's their steps? Because that's a lot of the factors. What do I got to do? Now, what happens? I take it. I've discharged my firearm, and the sheriff shows up, takes my gun. Now what?
Initially, what you're going to want to do is give us a call. On all the membership cards that we give away, it has an emergency hotline. So if something does happen, call that number, and your attorney is going to answer the phone. And that's very important because a lot of other companies, they have call centers and different things that answers the phone call, that kind of monitors, asks questions to try to weed out, maybe to not have to pay that claim. But your attorney with FLP, your attorney answers that phone call, giving you immediate client privilege, and that call is non-discoverable. So that call will never be held against you in anything moving forward. So when you call that, your attorney answers the phone call, you tell them exactly what's going on, and he'll tell you exactly what you need to do moving forward based on your situation. And what he'll do is he will, or they, whatever attorney answers that phone call, will send out an attorney directly to you immediately. So you will have representation on the way right when you're on that phone call to get the help that you need.
So realistically, it should be your second phone call.
Well,
You should be called 911.
Well, often it's your first phone call.
Right. If you don't have to call 911, then that should be your first.
Yes.
And even there's been some folks who have called us, and the attorney will say, "Have you called 911 yet?" And if they say no, they say, "All right, when you call 911, this is what you need to do."
Yeah.
Now, what you need to do is on that membership card, it'll say, "When you call 911, this is all you need to say." But they'll say, "All right, this is what you need to do." And there are times when they can say, "Do you want us to call 911 for you?" And they can call 911 for you.
Okay.
But if you have called 911, they said, okay, when they show up, and depending upon what the scenario is, if it was involving a gun and you shot, they'll say, all right, make sure, you're not sitting there, waving the gun as the police show up and stuff like that. So they'll kind of walk you through that. So, the other thing that Nick alluded to a little bit is one thing we do is we function like our legal system is supposed to function. That is, you're innocent until proven guilty. So we assume, because we got very minimal information, and we were immediately dispatching an attorney out to you. So we assume everything you did, you weren't robbing a bank at the time that this happened. That's what you did is what you were supposed to do. We assume you were right, well within the right. We don't wait to gather information. Some companies do wait to gather information to determine coverage. No, we assume that's right. Let's go. And we dispatch an attorney out to you. And then if all of a sudden information, and I gave you this example, information comes back and says, yeah, Jeff was right. The guy did come after him with a knife and he shot him. But what Jeff didn't tell us is he was robbing the 7-Eleven at the time, and that was the store manager. So at that point in time, that's not self-defense. That's not a self-defense claim. You were committing a felony. You were robbing a bank. But every penny that we spent, which probably will be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 on that attorney to get out there and do his or hers due diligence, we eat. We don't even bill that back.
Yeah, and one of the things that you brought up earlier, the fact that you're going to have you're going to have legal, but you're going to have civil. And, I think we talked about it at lunch a little bit about the O.J. Simpson, how, yeah, he was found not guilty legally, but they finally did get him on the civilly. And you're going to get sued in the civil court. If you pull a firearm, if you stab somebody with your keys, you're going to get sued in a civil court, especially in our state. I know some places, Arkansas, maybe not as much is what I hear about there, but here you're going to get sued. And I think just the fact that you're going to have an attorney come out there, like it falls right into, like we said, our biggest push is to have responsible gun ownership. And this is, responsible to save your own ass, quite honestly. What are some of the, when you think about what to expect, we've cut a little bit of it, but to cut down the road, some of the cases that you've had, you've had the big ones, but what are surprises that people have come across when they've had to report a case? Call you guys and report a case.
Now, when you say surprise, is surprise on our end and what we.
Well, they're on the person with the coverage.
Okay.
They got to be, because they're in shock and they're not knowing, but at the same time, we all have their mindset of what we think it's going to be. But you walked them through so many now to help them guard them against. Yeah,
I think some of the surprises that people find out is just, again, they got the coverage so they don't worry about it, but they realize, oh my God, how expensive this would have been had I been coming out of pocket. I would have had to probably, take a second on my home, cash in my kids' college fund and, or maybe my 401k, because the attorneys that represent you in a criminal case, these are highly skilled criminal defense attorneys. These aren't your $100 an hour attorneys. These are your, $700, $800, $900 an hour attorneys. And for example, in Texas, you take out a gun and shoot somebody. It's not an if. You are going to get arrested and you're going to go downtown. So question is, when you get there, do they release you? And that's where we get an attorney out to you to advocate on your behalf. But if you do get arrested and they've set bail, let's immediately start working on your bail if you got one of the two premium plans. So the big shock is that oh my God, the money. Because in Texas, when you get arrested, you're going to go before the grand jury in Texas. And they're going to decide whether or not they're going to no bill you, which is mean you're not going to trial, or they're going to true bill you, which means you are going to trial. Well, just to that point, you're looking at $15,000 to $25,000 to have an educated, well-skilled attorney to defend you in front of a grand jury so you don't get true billed. If you do get true billed, then that attorney is going to look to you and say, I need anywhere from, depending upon what it is that you're guilty of, $30,000 to $50,000 up front to get this trial going. That's what you're looking at. When we're involved, we deal with the attorney directly. We pay them directly. It's not a you pay them and we'll reimburse you. We're dealing directly with the attorney. Now, the attorneys like it because they're not worried about a few things. You run out of money as the client. So now they got to plea a deal, or now they're trying to collect money. They know that's not going to be the case with us. And so they know that they can roll up their sleeves and get after it. And obviously from the member standpoint, they're not sweating over, oh my gosh. So that's one big surprise when they realize the legal system, how much time this can take and what the true cost was. That seems to be probably a big shock to a lot of them. And then the other thing is, okay, gosh, we won the trial, or the charges got dropped. I'm golden. And then you say, well, but we got to have an attorney to go get that off your record. What do you mean? I'm not guilty. They dropped the charges. Yeah, but those charges are still probably going to show up on your record. So when you go for a student loan, small business loan, home loan, whatever, it's going to say, oh, Jeff was arrested one time for attempted murder or manslaughter or whatever, aggravated assault. It's still going to show up. You don't want that because that could be the difference between getting approved or not. So an attorney needs to get that off for you. So that's one thing. But then the other thing is that we already alluded to. You take a sigh of relief thinking the nightmare is over, and lo and behold, here comes your civil lawsuit. And not just from the person or persons you encountered. It could be somebody just standing on the corner doing what so many of us do these days, is filming what happened and posting it on TikTok or YouTube or wherever. And the next thing you know, you get a lawsuit from them because they got an attorney that's quick talking and says, we can probably squeeze this guy for a few bucks. We'll just say you've been having nightmares ever since you witnessed this. And that's unfortunately, you mentioned civil suits. In 2023, there were 43 million civil lawsuits filed in the United States. It's almost 15% of the U.S. population. That's the reality.
Yeah, it goes with what people could expect. Now, you're up in Idaho. How are the laws up there in comparison to other areas? We have a lot of folks from this area moving to Idaho.
Yes.
What can they expect when they get there?
Much better laws as far as going with the Constitution. Idaho is a stand your ground state, so a castle doctrine. But unfortunately, with that, a lot of people in Idaho think that if they were to shoot someone coming in their house, that they are free and clear, that they're not going to have to go through that due process. So it's really about educating them on, even if you're 100% right in defending yourself, defending your family, you're still going to go through due process. You're still going to probably get arrested, and you're still going to have to pay an attorney to go through that. And so that's what, again, that's what FLP does, is pay that for them to make sure that they're going through that due process without costing anything. And a lot of people, they don't realize that even if they're 100% correct in defending themselves, it's still going to cost them thousands of dollars.
Even up there in Idaho.
Even in Idaho.
And you were going to tell a little story about what surprises.
Yeah, because you asked about, what are surprises and what people, aren't sure of. And I think a big one is, information. When they get into that emergency situation, most people aren't familiar with having to shoot somebody or having to defend themselves. So when the police come, the police job is to get as much information as possible. So they're going to ask questions. They're going to probe. They're going to want to get as much stuff as they can. And a lot of people will willingly give that information if they're not aware of what they should and should not say in that situation. That's going to come back and bite them in the butt later. So again, having those attorneys that can talk to them and guide them through that process is going to save them a lot of headache and a lot of hassle moving forward.
There's another thing that sometimes when you call our emergency hotline, when they ask you and they get it, what the event was, whether it was a shooting or some other self-defense scenario, but they'll ask you, is anybody hurt or does anybody need an ambulance? And if the member says, yeah, the person I got involved with is, bleeding, broken nose, broken arm, whatever, they say, okay, when you call 911, you ask for 2 ambulances. Why 2? One for him and one for you. You ask for you. That way, when the ambulance shows up, you're in that ambulance, and technically, police are not supposed to come up there and start questioning you. So it gives you a time to catch your breath, and hopefully gives a time for our attorney to get there on your behalf. Because as Nick was saying, as a police officer, he knows this. In a police officer involved shooting, they give them 72 hours before they have to make a statement, because they understand what's going on in your brain and the chemicals that are being, released. You're not thinking clearly. Same reason why, for us older people that have to go get certain things done after we turn a certain age.
Right.
When you're done, they say, hey, don't sign any contracts, don't negotiate anything, because you're not going to be thinking clearly. Kind of the same principle. So, that's one thing they will say to you if you say, yes, someone is injured and we need an ambulance, when then you ask for two. You always ask for one for yourself.
That's a great thing to think about. And it's not that you're hiding. You got to protect yourself.
Right.
And I think back to the first CCW class I went through, and actually was taught by a deputy. And I think I was telling you about him. And one of his things was, he said, when I show up, and I'm probably going to be one of them that will show up when there's a shooting, because he was one of the one of the investigators. He said, you need to shut up. You're going to answer a few questions. How many shots were fired? Which direction they went? And I don't remember what the third one was, but he goes, that's all other than that, you're going to say, I have nothing else to say. At that point, you're going to wait for your attorney. But he said, that's the only things you really have to answer is how many shots were fired and which direction they went, because.
Well, I know for me personally, anybody listening to this can already get a sense that I got a gift of gab. So, if I had an event like that, my adrenaline, I'd be talking 150 miles an hour, no telling what would come out of my mouth, most of which I wouldn't probably want repeated. Not that I would be using inappropriate language, but I was just like, did I say that? No, that's not what I meant. Well, I don't know what you meant, Mr. Rogers, but this is what you said.
Well, you won't remember it.
Yeah.
And that's what he was telling us. One of the biggest factors is you're going to say a lot of stuff. You're not, like I said, you're not thinking straight. But you're also not going to remember what you said.
Yeah. And I'd also say to people, and I'm going to advocate for instructors, if you're someone that's serious about, having a concealed carry license, or serious about having a weapon in your home for self-defense, you need to go sign up for a class with a licensed, certified instructor that knows what he or she is doing to learn the laws, the do's and don'ts. And I would advocate for you also, shooting a gun is an athletic event. So for all you golfers out there or tennis players, if you want to become good at it, if you want to lower your handicap, you don't do it by not playing. You do it by playing and practicing. Same thing with a gun. Okay. Don't just go shoot once and think it's over. You need to practice that. It is a muscle memory, hand-eye coordination. It's an athletic event. Go to an instructor. Let them educate you on the do's and don'ts, because if you want to be a responsible gun owner. And again, that's for those who are actually going to be active with a gun. And so I can't say enough about the instructors that are out there educating people. We do something down at Southern California with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. I know they're the largest in the state, and they may be one of the largest in the country, Sheriff's Department. They actually have us come in to their CCW, because they actually do the CCW class in Riverside. And so they do it there, and the requals every, I think, 3 years it is, or something like that. They ask us to come into the class to talk about legal protection, because they're sitting there saying, you need to listen to these guys. You need to have this coverage. Kind of just what you said, because if you pull out your gun, I'm showing up, and this is what I'm going to do. You need to have legal protection. They're advocating, and they're not. We don't have like we do instructors where they get compensated for it. They don't get compensated for that, but they're hammering pretty hard to those folks. You need to have legal protection to be a responsible gun owner. So we do it with Riverside. We've just started it recently at Pomona, and there's a few other sheriff's departments that we're slowly doing it with as well. It's just important.
Well, I think more and more as we're seeing these laws keep getting overturned in the states, there's going to be more and more carrier, people with CCWs up, and even in California. Like I said, when people say we go find out we actually record this in California, they're surprised. You say, what do you mean? You guys can't have guns in California. Yeah, we can. Which you made a comment earlier. You have, what, the third or fourth largest?
So I checked on the way over here because I was kind of spitballing for a second. So we're a Texas-based company. So and we started off in 2014 in Texas only. So you would assume Texas is the state where we have most members, and it is. But California is number 5 out of all the states. It's number 5. We do a lot here in California. And so, that's saying a lot for a state that's not always very gun friendly.
Oh yeah, you could look at the map, and I pulled it up to see by county. You can actually see exactly. Well, that's where I need to be, because there's some of them that you could does it by the colors, and the dark red ones that we would think is red. Actually, red means you can't get a firearm there. And the San Luis Obispo County is very hard. Santa Clara County is not going to happen. It's darn near impossible. But as those laws are starting to change, more and more of those folks are going to start carrying. So.
And again, it's, as we keep saying, it's not just guns. And I know the focus is guns because that's the big, bad, ugly topic in this conversation. But it's just your legal right to defend yourself with any legal means possible. You, your loved one, or a good neighbor. I once asked somebody in a class, I said, and there was a lady sitting next to him. I can't remember her name, but I said, I'll just say Margaret. If Margaret was out in the park line, you saw she was being accosted by somebody, and you had your gun, would you run over there to help her? And if that guy came after you, would you defend yourself? Well, yes, of course. All right. Well, let me ask you this. What if I told you to do that for Margaret? It was going to cost you $50,000. Would you still do it? And he hesitated for a second. I said, Margaret, I said, did you see that? He just hesitated.
Just saw your value.
No Christmas cards for him.
No, that's a great point. But also, I know you guys just flew in today, but look at what's going on in LA right now. And we've seen it all around the country with these protests in the middle of the streets. They shut down the 101. The protesters did the last couple of days. You're going to come across those guys. I carry pepper spray in my truck because I don't want to have to, pull out a firearm in those type of situations. And some people carry bear spray or wasp spray or whatever. You could get sued just as easily using that. Yeah. You brought up a great example about sending your kids away to college. And I sent my daughter, they both went off to college. Things could have happened with them.
Right.
And they would have protected themselves and we probably would have got sued.
Right.
So it's going to protect their kids when they go to college.
Absolutely.
Also.
Yeah. I mean, you don't think about it. And again, when people say family plan, well, my son or daughter's 15. They're not legally allowed to own a gun. You're right. But they're legally allowed to defend themselves. They go to high school football games, dances, basketball games, go to the mall, hanging out with buddies. Crazy thing happens. So your son or daughter, is getting attacked. They pick up a rock and use that to defend themselves. Your daughter pulls out her mace, squirts somebody. He's screaming and rubbing his eyes, steps off the curb, bangs his head on the concrete, cracks his skull, or has to get rushed to get stitches in. Guess who's probably going to end up in a civil lawsuit?
Now, will this type of protection, how long will it stay with the kids? If they're living in your home?
17 or under, living with you in the house. They're protected under a family plan. So for the parents who say, well, my son and daughter is going to college, obviously they're 18. So they don't fall under the family plan. I say, well, we'll give them a discounted program for our basic plan to just cover them in, down at UCLA or up to Chico or, whatever school they're going to. Yeah. Just get them their own little basic plan for $9.95 a month.
And it covers
and that covers them.
Okay. So once they turn 18, they do need to get
once
their
they
own.
turn 18, just like the law, they're an adult and they're no longer falling under that family plan.
Okay. No, I just want some clarification on that one to make sure. And in that, like I said, it always falls back to being the responsible gun owner. This is a big part of it, but it is the other aspects of, every bit of protection. That's all. You're really responsible for your family, as the way I look at it is. You got to have this. This protection is going to protect them in case you do something. What else should we cover in here that you would like to be brought up? I know working with the instructors is a big factor. Working potentially with some feed stores, or not with feed stores. That's my other job.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah,
we partner with, retail shops. We called on one earlier.
Yeah, we went to one of the better ones here in town.
Yeah. Ranges or retail, combo range. Partner with instructors. That's all they do is they teach classes. We partner with manufacturers, not just gun or optics, but just, ancillary, partners. I do a lot with, law enforcement. I do something with the Ohio, Small Police Department Association. I do a lot with military. I just was here 2 weeks ago in Sacramento with California INGAS, Enlisted Association National Guard. We're partnered with them. We do a gain share to benefit their signed up the Non-Commissioned Officers Association. We do a lot with military and first responders with them, and we create a program to where they benefit. If their members sign up, we give them a portion of the monthly membership fee to them to help kind of fund their own stuff. So we do a lot of with different associations. But obviously, those that are in the self-defense, gun-related, manufacturer, we partner with a lot of those folks as well.
Yeah, you mentioned ranges. Actually, out here we have 5 Dogs, which is one of the top ranges around. How does it work with a range? What do you do with them? Is that going to be similar to what you do with the
yeah?
gun
So
store?
we'll sign up the range and we call them a partner. That's the company, that's the facility, and then if they teach classes, then we'll sign them up. We'll sign up their instructors as a producer, and so when they have a class, we'll pay the partner, the range, a fee for our sign up. Then we'll pay that instructor a fee and a bonus for having a sign up for teaching that class. If the individual happens to be both, you get some small ranges where I own the retail, but I'm also I own the retail range, but I'm also the instructor, and then you're going to get both of those payments. But we also have something, and you saw it today when we swung by earlier. We have something that's just geared towards a retail shop only. They don't have a range. They don't teach classes. All they do is people come in to buy a gun, ammo, or targets, or whatever the case may be. We've got a product that's just for them so that they can offer this service and this protection to their patrons, and also financially will get some benefit out of it. And I showed you our Retail Ready card, which is a prepaid 90-day policy that's very, very reasonably priced. That gives them an opportunity to either sell it individually, or if someone has purchased a gun, ammo, eyes, ears, whatever, and they say, hey, how are you set up for legal protection? Well, what's that? Well, let me tell you a little bit about it. I tell you what, I'm going to take this as a 90-day plan. I'm going to include it with your purchase here. While I'm finishing up your paperwork, pop open that. There's a QR code in there. Scan that with your phone. It'll take you a minute and a half to sign up, get signed up for that protection. You'll get a welcome email from Firearms Legal Protection, and your membership card's already in there. So you're golden. You're good to go. 90 days, you'll get an email from them saying you want to continue or do you want to cancel. So that's something that we have that's really geared towards that retail shop. But obviously someone that's retail in range, they can certainly do it on their retail side too.
No, and I think that's a big factor right there. Because if you're going to be selling firearms, I think it goes back to being responsible. That's part of it. Take care of themselves. In that, what other things would you like to bring in here? I know him and I have talked a lot. We've kept you pretty quiet.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all exactly the same stuff that I would want to talk about and say. The biggest thing what I tell people is, if you're not going to go with us for whatever reason, go with somebody. Just get protected. That's our whole goal, is to protect people from the financial devastation if they have to defend themselves and defend their families. So I think if they do more of their own research and look up different companies, I think they're going to find that we're probably one of the best out there. But if for whatever reason, just get somebody, get protected.
It's very, very inexpensive peace of mind. I mentioned to you, I flew out today, went to Starbucks at the airport this morning, got a large coffee and classic oatmeal with a tip, spent $13. Well, I just paid for my 1 month of basic coverage to protect me. So it's 32 cents a day. I don't know about anybody else, but 32 cents a day is a peace of mind that I can afford.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we need that more and more out there. So when I look at it, it scares the hell out of me. Like I said, I was telling you earlier, I've been sued more times civilly when I had my grocery store than I could count. There's always lawyers out there waiting, always waiting. So it's just protect your ass where you can. That's really what it comes down to. With that, that kind of covers everything we need to put in here. I think really just how can they reach you guys? What's the best way if an instructor wants to get involved, or if individuals want to get involved, what's the best way to get involved? Well,
I'll give you my phone number right now. All right. Jeff Rogers, VP of Revenue Growth for FLP, area code 325-518-2144. Or you can go to our website, www.firearmslegal.com, and you can fill out a form there and inquire saying, I'd like to talk to somebody as well. But give me a call. The one thing I do is I answer my phone and I return my call. So give me a call. I'd love to talk to you. And there's no magic formula. We're just going to lay it out. This is what we do, and I hope it interests you. If so, I promise you we will spoil you rotten, and we will take care of what we do. Take care of our customers, our members, and we take care of our partners. And I'll end what I'm going to say. We've been around since 2014. We've never had a lawsuit filed against us. We've never had a complaint filed against us by a member. We've never had a member cancel their membership after they filed a claim, because we do what we say we're going to do. We stand behind our members, and we take care of them.
Now, what about you? How do they get a hold of you? Go through Jeff and come to you?
Yeah, go through Jeff. And then, he can reach out to me, or they can, send me an email Buell, Buell at firearmslegal.com. And ask me any questions and I'll take care of you if you're in my neck of the woods, or if not, me and Jeff will work together and get you covered and partnered with us. Absolutely.
Now you cover California.
Some parts.
Some parts?
Yeah.
You have somebody else in California also?
Yeah, I've got a gentleman in Sacramento.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to bring somebody on that'll cover Southern Cal. Also, Jay Rogers at firearmslegal.com. That's my email.
Okay.
You can email me to Jay. And I spell Rogers the right way, just a G, no D. Rogers. For all you Chico people, Aaron Rodgers, I know, but he doesn't spell it the right way.
I was thinking that's more because you live in Texas and he played for Green Bay. You're not allowed to root for Rodgers. But now you mentioned you do a lot with the first responders, and we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit to bring a little personality to you, bring home. You do have a foundation on your own.
I do.
That works with first responders.
Yes. So when I was a deputy sheriff with the Lake County for a couple of years, we had a couple of officers end up getting killed. And going to those funerals, it really hit home for me, seeing the whole dynamic of how things work. Everyone was there. Everyone was offering their support. It was a great thing. But then when you see people kind of go about their lives and scatter, the families are left to deal with that aftermath ongoing for the rest of their lives. So that just kind of spurred me into wanting to do something more for those families. So I started my my nonprofit called Families of the Fallen. And that's what we do, is we support and assist these families of first responders who are killed in the line of duty. So that's our focus, and that's what we do.
No, I think that's a big deal. That falls right into a lot of the same people, right honestly.
Yeah.
When you look at that.
Absolutely. Like all these instructors and, gun ranges, for the most part, they're all law enforcement supporters. One hand kind of helps the other. So yeah, it all coordinates very well.
Yeah. You go on our site, you're going to see Tony Mosley. He's one of the instructors we work with, and you mentioned him. He was BPD for 27 years here in town. So it's a lot of the same folks.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big factor to bring that in. And what's it called again?
It's called Families of the Fallen.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. So I think we'll put the link in there for FLP onto our site. It'll be in the show notes. And we'll kind of end it right there. I think we're in good shape.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much. Yeah. Like I said, being responsible is a big factor.
Yes, sir.
And this is a big part of it.